Uganda successfully launched her first satellite into space yesterday. This was at Kololo Independence Grounds where the celebrations took place. And also today's New Vision brings you the students who made the satellite. It's in today's New Vision. Moving on, house help held over stabbing baby to death. The Kampala Metropolitan Police is holding a house help following the death of a 9-month-old baby, Najana Nkumbi, a city suburb. And also on AIDS symposium to highlight prevention treatment, 3,858 government schools risk missing capitation grant. In a letter to all heads of academic institutions, the Education Ministry has warned that there would be no extension of December 9th deadline for schools to implement the Education Management Information System. Get yourself a copy and see all the details of this story. District bosses endorse Museveni for 2026. NRM chairperson of Nabila took District Abdullah Lila leading the line as party chairperson sign on the poster to endorse President Museveni as the sole candidate for 2026. This was at Kati Kati restaurant in Kampala yesterday. The more stories are in today's New Vision. And in the Daily Monitor today, judiciary to recruit 122 judges and judicial officers. The judiciary says 11 judges, 27 registrars, deputies and assistants are needed to bolster capacity for fast-tracking justice administration countrywide. The Daily Monitor also brings you a milestone for Uganda as Uganda launches satellite into space. They bring you the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation as she's celebrated after a rocket carrying Uganda's first ever satellite was launched in the United States yesterday. At a function held in Kololo, at the Kololo ceremonial grounds to view the launch live, Dr. Musenero said the satellite would relieve Uganda of relying on satellite data from foreign countries. In other news, what's happening in COP27, African countries demand pay, and also is government plan to build industrial parks, create jobs on track. It's in today's Daily Monitor. And also the Daily Monitor brings you how closure of police posts will affect the population, how fraudsters are raiding mobile money accounts. In the Daily Monitor, there are also job opportunities, tenders at UNHCR, URA, LDC, Finance Ministry, NDA, World Vision, among others. Get yourself a copy and know what is happening around us. Now, allow me to take you straight into today's international news update. In our international news, after a small delay caused by a fire alarm at NASA's control center in the United States, 2 satellites built by Zimbabwean and Ugandan engineers respectively have been launched into space. Zimbabwe's satellite named ZimSat-1 was designed and assembled by 3 of the country's scientists who were supported and trained in Japan. Uganda's satellite, the Pearl of Africa Sat-1, was also built by 3 of its own country's aerospace engineers with the ambition that Uganda will set up its own command station to manage the satellite within the country. Once in orbit, both satellites will collect images of the countries from space to help support research into weather forecasting as well as monitoring border security and disaster prevention. Moving on, the war in Ukraine is a reason to act faster to tackle climate change, according to the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak when he was addressing the UN Climate Summit COP27. Leaders from 120 countries are meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, to discuss next steps in curbing climate change. Key topics are compensation and support for the most affected countries. Putin's abhorrent war in Ukraine and rising energy prices across the world are not a reason to go slow on climate change. They are reasons to act faster, according to Mr. Sunak. Moving on, talks on a deal with France over small boat channel crossings are in the final stages, according to Number 10. The comment came as Rishi Sunak had his first meeting as Prime Minister with French President Emmanuel Macron. Following the meeting, Mr. Sunak said there was not one simple solution to tackling the number of people crossing the channel in small boats. He said there was an opportunity to work closely with European countries on illegal migration. More details would be set out in the coming weeks, according to Mr. Sunak. The Ellis Palace said two leaders agreed to advance coordination to face the challenge of irregular migration. And in the United States, UN National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has confirmed communication channels between Washington and Moscow remain open despite the war in Ukraine. Speaking in New York, Mr. Sullivan said it was in the interests of the United States to maintain contact with the Kremlin. He insisted officials were clear-eyed about who they are dealing with. And on the war in Ukraine, up to now, neither Russia nor Ukraine has been able to gain control of Ukraine's skies, largely because their pilots do not want to risk getting shot down by the other side's air defense system. While Russia's air force far outweighs Ukraine's, both in size and sophistication, Russia has resorted to firing long-range ballistic and cruise missiles, recently augmented by cheap mass-produced Iranian Shahed 136 explosive-laden drones. And in the U.S., millions of Americans will vote in the midterm elections today, with the balance of power in Congress at stake. The entire U.S. House of Representatives, about a third of the Senate, and key state governorships are up for grabs. President Joe Biden, a Democrat, and ex-President Donald Trump, a Republican, made their closing arguments in dueling rallies. Mr. Biden's ability to pass laws will be stymied if Republicans take the House, as most projections expect. And in the world of social media, Facebook's parent company Meta is reportedly planning to begin large-scale layoffs this week that will affect thousands of employees. U.S. media reported at the weekend that job cuts could be announced as early as Wednesday. During Meta's disappointing third-quarter results, Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg said staffing might fall. And finally, Elon Musk says Twitter accounts engaging in impersonation without clearly specifying the AI parody will permanently be suspended. Twitter previously issued a warning before suspending accounts, but there would be no warning, he announced. A number of accounts that changed their name to Elon Musk and mocked the billionaire have already been suspended or placed behind a warning sign. Twitter's billionaire new owner took over the company late last month. At the end of last week, he laid off around half of the company's workforce. Well, that brings us to the end of this morning's news update. Thank you for watching Channel 44. I remind you of Karamoja Christmas Karamoja. We are giving the people of Karamoja a special time of the year with Christmas Karamoja. Join us once again by sending your seed to the numbers that will be available during the services, or you can bring your seed here at the Miracle Center Cathedral, hand it over to the pastor himself. He will pray a special blessing upon your life. The Pastors Now program is coming up next, and we'll return at 12:45 with fresh news updates. God bless you. Enjoy your morning.